Hey, smart Christians. Want to answer another one of your questions. Again, if you all have any questions that you want to send to me to answer that I can't get on the Q&As, send your questions to questions@smartchristians.org. I'll do my very best to get to as many of these as possible. But let's go ahead and jump into this right now. This comes from Elijah Hawkins. The question that he asked is, and it's a good question. He says, why did the Israelites complain about meat when they left Pharaoh, when they left Egypt? They had flocks. They had meat with them. Why didn't they eat the meat that they had? Why are they complaining about meat? That, my friend, is a very good question. And so, to find the answer, let's see if we can find the answer. And let's go to Exodus chapter 16. Let's start in verse 1, as a matter of fact. Let's start reading there. We're going to read a little bit, not too much, but I think we're going to see the answer and what they're actually speaking of. Then they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after the departure from Egypt. The whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. I mean, not too far after, not there far after leaving, they're complaining. These are the kind of people that I just would not have enjoyed their company, but maybe I was like that myself. The sons of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt." And look what he says. "When we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill the whole assembly with hunger." I want you to think about the attitude that they have when they're asking this question. And think about yourself as a parent listening to your children. Think about it just that way. You as a parent listening to your children. You'll see what I mean in a second. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread," this is where we get the word manna, or lechem, from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether or not they will walk in my instruction. On the sixth day, so guys will say, you know what, do this, and let's see if they're going to walk in my instructions. Not even though they're complaining and grumbling unnecessarily, I might add, he gives them a task to do to see if they're going to do it correctly, to see if they are going to walk in his instruction. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, there will be twice as much as they gather daily. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, "At evening you will know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, for he hears your grumbling against the Lord. And what are we that you grumble against us?" Moses said, "This will happen when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and bread to the full in the morning. For the Lord hears your grumblings, which you grumble against him. And what we are, your grumblings are not against us, but against the Lord." So notice what Moses is saying. Your grumblings, your complaints are directed at the person that delivered you. He's trying to give a point, get something across to them, that how do you have the audacity to complain about the one that set you free and blessed you? But like many others, like us, we're never satisfied, even with the multiple blessings that we've got. We want more. We want more. Verse 9. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, come near before your Lord, for he has heard your grumbling." It came about as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "I have heard the grumblings of the sons of Israel. Speak to them, saying that at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God." So it came about in the evening that quails came up from the covered camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around them. When the layer of dew evaporated, behold, on the surface of the wilderness there was like a fine flake-like thing, fine as the frost on the grounds. When the sons of Israel saw it, they said, "What is it?" And this is where we get this word manna. What is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, "It is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather of it every man as much as he should eat. You shall take an omer piece according to the number of the persons each of you has in his tent." The sons of Israel did so, and some gathered as much, and some gathered little. When they measured it with an omer, he who had gathered much had no excesses, and he who had gathered little had no lack. Every man gathered as much as he would eat. So you see, Here he is providing, he's telling them how to do so. Let's go to verse 20. But they did not listen to Moses, and left some part of it until morning, and the bread, and it bred worms and became foul, and Moses was angry with them. Again, I give you simple instructions and you don't follow the instructions. They gathered in the morning by morning, every man had as much as he should eat, but when the sun grew hot, it would melt. Now notice the frustration that builds up in Moses, and look at the people and their clear lack of attention to what Moses has said that he got from the Lord. In verse 22, now on the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, then he said to them, this is what the Lord meant. Tomorrow is a Sabbath observant, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake and boil what you will boil, and all that's left over put aside to be kept until morning. So they put aside until morning, and Moses had ordered it, and it did not become foul, nor was there any worm in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be none. It came about on the seventh day that some of the people went out to gather, but found none. Then the Lord said to Moses, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my instructions? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, he gives you bread for 2 days. On the sixth day, remain every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. The house of Israel, verse 31, named it manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and its taste was like wafers with honey. Then so they got some sweet bread. Then Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer full of it be kept throughout your generation, that they may see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. Now, I'm going to pause there. But think about this, though. This is one of the things that is brought up when Jesus comes around. He says that God fed your fathers in that day, and now he is the true bread. But what's the issue? So now think about it this way. I said think about it as a parent looks at a child. When your child tells you, we haven't done this in so long, do you think that God really brought the children of Israel out of the land with no food? They had food. Now, there are a couple of different explanations that you might find from different people who are Jews, from not the Torah, but from the different Jewish writings and certain rabbinic sources that might give explanation. But clearly, God was feeding them. There's no question that these people were going hungry. They made it, though, seem as though that they were left hungry. Look what he says. When we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread to the full, for you have brought us into this wilderness to kill us, this whole assembly with hunger. Are we really going to believe that God is not feeding them? No, they were used to sitting around the pots, eating meat, fresh meat, with their fresh bread. This is what they wanted. They wanted to have, I say this kind of jokingly, but they wanted to have Chick-fil-A sandwiches. They wanted to have a chicken sandwich. They wanted to have a quail sandwich. They wanted to have their meat. Now, they did have animals. The problem is, as they're journeying, to kill the animal, to kill the meat, you don't really necessarily, you could, but you didn't have these people that were traveling to sit and to prepare this meat. The meat would go to waste in some cases. And then eventually you're going to end up running out of the meat. If you keep slaughtering the meat every time to eat, they wanted some fresh meat. Now, in those days, they did not eat meat every day. They just did not. Meat was not that plentiful. They didn't have a grocery store to go to. Just like today, everyone had to eat meat every day. Some do, but maybe you should not. Another story. But here, they did not eat meat every day, but they wanted, it seems like, these special occasions to eat certain meat, fresh meat. Eating the cattle, the flock that you have, well, what it's going to do? It's going to take away the meat for some other time. You also had to have animals for your sacrifices. You also had to have the animals that you might have for your dairy products and things like that. Even though we have to be kosher, there's certain things that you wouldn't, certain animals you just could not eat. You could not eat all of the animals. You would run out. But God was clearly feeding them. He was feeding them meat. He was feeding them bread. They wanted a certain way, just like he says, they were used to eating meat from the pot with bread, fresh meat, fresh bread, to kind of sit around as though this was a party. That was the issue. And so it was not that God was not feeding them. He was feeding them, but then he even acquiesced to them to some degree and fed them in a way that they wanted to. But what would they do? They would gather it improperly and they would still grumble, complain. Interestingly enough, also, after all of this and Moses becoming fed up. Because remember, Moses is not complaining about being hungry. He's being fed just like everyone else is. But he's becoming more and more frustrated with these people. This is what happens prior to him hitting the rock and bringing in the ire of God because of his anger in hitting the rock because of the frustration that he had with the people. Sometimes people can make you frustrated, and that's what's happening here. They did have meat. There was no need for them to kill their animals. I'm pretty sure they may have on occasion, but they could not do it every day as often as maybe they wanted to, and they just simply wanted to have it a certain way. So, hope this helps. Again, if any of you all have any particular questions going forward and you want to send me an email, the place you do so is questions@smartchristians.org. I'll do my very best to get to as many of these questions as possible. Can't get to all of them, and in some of these questions, you'll find yourselves over the video being shown on the main channel as well, especially if we think that it's something that everyone could probably benefit from. Amen.